No one thinks harder for Lindsay Ellis than me. I can't find any flaws in her video essays, no matter how hard I squint. So when I hear a beloved RedTuber is writing a monster loving book, heck yeah, I'm game. But if this hadn't won the viewer poll, I would have dropped it 3 chapters in. The protagonist never has any idea what's going on or what she should do, and it was so frustrating. And you could argue, sure, it's an alien invasion. All right. Her dad is up to some Edward Snowden shenanigans. Okay. She's being hunted by the CIA. I guess. These are all scenarios that are going to make being a girl boss a little bit trickier. But instead of feeling like I was pulled into this world of mystery and intrigue, I was frustrated, feeling like I was being strung along for a ride and I had no idea what was happening. Early in the book, there is a scene where the protagonist Cora searches for her runaway dog. Upon finding him, she jokingly says, "If those aliens didn't end you, I'd do it myself." In a playful, tough love manner typical of pet owners dealing with mischief. In the book's final act, Cora's alien boyfriend gives her a look, which she interprets as, "Those bad guys weren't going to end you, I'd do it myself." This moment stood out because it's the only instance where it seems to be a direct narrative link or a sense of cause and effect. It was a rare moment of there was a narrative completeness or character development where Cora reflects on a similar thought from the beginning, but in a new context. However, this was the extent of it. It was just Cora having the same thought twice. And before I hear any baloney about this being book 1 in a trilogy, so it's going to be harder to tell a complete story. Oh, okay, dude, maybe. But think of how a good season 1 of an anime will wrap up the current arc and give the audience a sense of completeness, even if the manga is 20 volumes ahead with no sign of stopping. It's not too big of an ask for a book to tell me a complete story. Now, on the off chance you forgot what happened in Axiom's End, let me read you the summary from Fan Lore Wiki. Here's how they sum it up. Set in 2007, college dropout Cora Sabino navigates life in which the connection to her conspiracy theorist father, Nils Ortega, has caused her to come in contact with a member of the amygdaline alien race. The alien, codenamed Ampersand, uses Cora as a mind control puppet until they eventually are able to have a conversation and come to an understanding. Ampersand wants to find the location of a group of crashed amygdalines, the Fremda group, and Cora wants to save her family, who had been detained by the CIA after Ampersand had earlier broken into their home. Eventually, the two, and Cora's Aunt Luciana, come forward to reveal Ampersand to the CIA. Ampersand and the Fremda group are thusly united. Representing Ampersand as his interpreter, Cora is allowed to stay on as a consultant for the aliens as they are all moved to a more secure military base. The group of aliens are given protection here, as higher-ranking amygdalines, the Obelisk event, are looking for them to kill them in an attempt to complete a job. Cora and Ampersand grow closer. The aliens in hiding, and by extent Cora, are soon discovered by the other groups of aliens hunting them. Cora and Sal relocate with the genome, the last remaining remnant of the DNA that made Ampersand's group defective to their people. The sac containing the genomes hatch into an alien who resembles amygdalines, but instead of being a robot, the alien is all flesh, surprising everyone. After an attempt to relocate again is thwarted, Cora is separated from the CIA, reunited with her aunt, and then finally reunited with Ampersand and the Fremda group. However, Ampersand tells Cora to leave and not come back. After hearing screeching, she returns anyways, to find Obelisk, the amygdaline who'd been hunting them, confronting the Fremda group. It is here that Cora learns Ampersand is actually pair bonded to Obelisk. Obelisk grabs Cora and demands Ampersand to bring him the genome, or else he will Cora and half of the Ampersand's group. While captured, Cora tells Obelisk's group about him being bonded to Ampersand, making Obelisk a part of the defective bloodline, and thus someone to be purged. Ampersand double-crosses Obelisk, entrusting the survival of his group, the genome, and himself to Cora. While all the non-natural amygdalines are stunned, she tries to kill Obelisk with a shovel, but Ampersand forces her to stop. In the end, Ampersand chooses to save Cora's life over that of the genome's life after both of them are wounded. After Cora wakes up later in the hospital, finding her family all alive and well, Ampersand admits he fusion bonded to Cora in order to track her when Obelisk had taken her hostage. End quote. I want to consider how a book will change you, because you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. And after spending an afternoon reading Axiom's End, and making that delightful group of characters my 5 closest, I emerged a changed taper. I put down this 384-page adventure, and I felt renewed, reborn. I couldn't tell you my name or what year it was or up from down, just like everyone in this book. Let me share with you the quote that sums up this story the best. On page 311, after the protagonist chit-chats with her monster boyfriend, this is what the narration tells us. She wanted to push him again and ask him what his plan was, but it was only here that she realized the reason she kept pushing for him for a plan was because she had none herself. She was completely lost, looking for someone to tell her where to go, what to do, but no one knew what they were doing, what lay ahead. Everyone was now paying the price for the clumsiness of their own secrets. Luciana, ampersand, Saul, the goddamn President of the United States of America. No one was flying the plane. Not a game of strategy, but a game of chance. She didn't even know what her official status was. Was she on the run from the law? Was she a fugitive? Had she broken any laws? You have this much of the book left. How in the dink do you still not know what is going on? This is an entire book of the protagonist being way too bewildered for her own good, who keeps bumping into a parade of idiots who know even less than her. The one silver lining here is I was able to recover from all of the psychic damage thanks to Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot designed to give a focused, calm energy with a slow-release caffeine so you can keep going and stay productive all day. Thanks to Magic Mind, I could charge through the worst books like they're nothing. My track record speaks for itself. Just look at all of the awful books I reviewed on this channel. And at night, after a long day of being an angry PNG tuber, I wind down with the sleep shot, and I wake up feeling fantastic. It's the new year, I've set a lot of big goals for myself, and I know I'm coming into this way stronger now that I'm armed with Magic Mind. I want you to try it too. At magicmind.com/taperjan, you can get 45% off the 24-hour pack. You get Magic Mind Focus and Magic Mind Sleep, and you're going to want to get both to get your brain on the right track. That's magicmind.com/taperjan. That's TAPIRJAN. Link is going to be in the description and pinned comment. Thank you, Magic Mind, for sponsoring this video. You guys are the best. Now, on to the review. The most interesting parts of this book were between chapters. They included in-universe news articles and blog posts. Those were very cool. And if that was the whole book, I would have had a great time. The bits about the alien language were also pretty neat, pretty good world building. There's a part where the alien asks about the language of music, and that was particularly interesting, and since part of his learning human language included sifting through the internet, that means he's consumed a lot of corn to get to this point. So there's a scene where protagonist Cora more or less gives him the talk, which was pretty gosh darn hilarious. The best part of this book was when Cora interprets for ampersand to the CIA. She gives her own creative liberties when translating, so he doesn't sound like an actual monster. But anything good about this book was few and far between, so I would like to humbly organize this review by my top 5 worst moments in this book. So starting at number 5, the Mushmouth. This is going to be the biggest me problem, but I have an especially deranged, nitpicky hatred when books hesitate one too many times in their narration. I'll add the caveat that when a writer does this well, I love it. Prime example being the Monogatari series. Half of that series is the narration playing metaphorical grab-ass with introspection and wordplay, and it's an absolute delight. So I'm of the mindset that if a character's having some mixed feelings and you're not going to make an attempt to be interesting, clever, or guide me through how they're processing things, for the love of it, just be direct and don't waste my time. I felt like such a jerk mentally noting how I'd reword some of the slower scenes because, again, I like Lindsay Ellis. On page 368, this paragraph stood out as especially clunky. It reads, Cora felt something like disappointment, confusion even, like she knew what he was saying wasn't entirely accurate, or she was missing a vital piece. She had heard that voice in her mind so clearly. Then later, when she had tried to kill Obelisk, the feeling she had known exactly where and how to do it, that she could see his vulnerabilities like hotspots. End quote. Well, if it's not disappointment or confusion, crack open that thesaurus, start hunting until you find out what it is. I don't feel like I'm along for the ride and exploring these new feelings with the characters. I feel like you're bopping along on cruise control and haven't given your audience the courtesy of a rewrite. So number 4, the whole plate. Oh boy, was this an adorable moment. Cora goes to a greasy spoon with her aunt, and they order a bunch of pancakes, and they eat the whole plate, which is a nod to a moment in Michael Bay's Transformers and the name of Lindsay Ellis' in-depth documentary on the films. It felt like they were getting a little too cute with their geek references, and I was not happy about it. Now, I do adore it when somebody takes beloved fandom properties or characters and re-rolls them into OCs. That is not the problem here. But it felt like this moment was mugging the camera, smom-browing as hard as they could, nudging me to the side and asking if I understood their very clever reference. And I'm rolling my eyes like, yes, Miss Ellis, I understood your Transformers joke. Can we please move on with the story? Onward to number 3. It takes place in 2007, and the alternate history needed to go harder. Axiom's end didn't need to take place in 2007. Most of the plot takes place either in a government bunker or off the grid, so the fact that it takes place in 2007 just means we get a sprinkling of member-bearing pop culture references that, I guess, are made to light up the recognition part of our noggin. I didn't like it. It felt cheap. Making this a period piece didn't give this story an extra texture or intrigue. There's a part where the protagonist Cora yoinks a Harry Potter book off of a communal bookshelf, and I'm thinking, God, she's lucky. She's reading Harry Potter, and I'm reading Axiom's End. Yeah, I'd rather read Harry Potter than this. We also get some delightful references to Star Wars and Ender's Game, which I also bitterly dislike, and I'm just wondering, when are people going to start making nostalgia references for the stuff that is cool and that I like Naruto? And I don't mean the shonen series Naruto, I mean the yaoi fanfiction tag Naruto, and the funny feelings everyone got when we saw Haku the femboy. Midway through the book, George W. Bush resigns from the presidency after it's revealed that he lied about his knowledge of the existence of aliens, and this event gave me a smattering of hope. Maybe the first half of this book is a directionless Bella Swan stumbling around a Transformers fanfic, and the second half can turn into the West Wing Aliens edition. But Bush resigning doesn't have any big impact, it just kinda happens. On page 226, we're told, the news of Bush's resignation changed the mood of the complex, not so much chaos as bewilderment. It seemed business as usual, but there was an intriguing split between people who were livid at Bush for being dumb enough to lie about something as monumentous as first contact under oath, the people who were trying to suppress their joy at the development, and the people who didn't care. End quote. I was so mad at this part because it's like, buddy, you've described every big political scandal. There's a nod to how this could stop the war in Iraq, but it doesn't. Nothing particularly comes of this moment. It just happens, I guess, because wouldn't it be cool if Bush resigned? And it's like, yeah, it would have. Now tell me the impact of this major political event other than reaction. Sure, we're mixed. The big clash at the climax of the book had nothing to do with the political happenings. I think that quote was the last time the book brings it up. So onward to number 2. This is the no headcanon zone. Much of this book is Cora and Ampersand either exploring their bond or she's interpreting for him. But the two are the worst ends for bland character extremes. It's like we're watching a lifetime translation for beige to drying paint. Me calling Cora Bella Swan was an insult to Bella Swan. Because at least Bella Swan, you can apply some queer headcanons when you're scratching your noggin like, isn't it peculiar that this girl is living every straight girl's fantasy, but she's walking around totally expressionless and disinterested? Makes you think. I can't begin to pin Cora with any headcanons because there's absolutely nothing going on with her. After I read Axiom's End, as a palate cleanser, I reread The Couple Next Door. It's a suspense thriller about a couple that goes to their neighbor's dinner party and leaves their 6-month-old baby at home. But they figure, it'll be fine. We'll bring the baby monitor and check up on her every half hour. But everything is not deja vu, and the baby gets kidnapped, and it's a tense page-turning whodunit. Character personalities in that book are as thin as they can get while still legally being characters. The two best characters are the neighbor, Cynthia, who is a troublemaking temptress, and the grieving mother, whose personality can be summed up as perpetually falling on the fainting couch. Anyway, I bring this up because I totally forgot that the kidnapped baby in that book is named Cora, which made that book an absolute hoot. So the one and only headcanon I'm applying to Axiom's End Cora is she's the kidnapped baby all grown up. She's acting totally directionless and bewildered because her parents are from a different genre, and clumsy characterization is a genetic disease. And the number one worst part of the book, the monster romance was a real bummer. A good monster-loving story will make me wonder, who hurt you? And if the story really resonates with me, I start to wonder, oh no, who hurt me? But unfortunately, I didn't feel anything during the monster romance scenes. Interspecies romance is a dynamic with a solid foundation for appealing to outsiders. Either that desire to be a quote-unquote outsider and escape the ho-hum mundanity of everyday life, or exploring themes of feeling different and contrasting that with acceptance because you're not held down by strictly human constructs. Something like Jingai-san no Yome is all about the fuwa-fuwa escapism. Meanwhile, Shape of Water, as described by GDT, is about our problems today and about demonizing the other and about fearing or hating the other, and how that is a much more destructive position than learning to love and understand. End quote. I'm laying this groundwork to establish that I like this dynamic, I understand this dynamic, so when I say I don't like the monster romance angle, this isn't me trying to morally grandstand, I'm just disappointed. All this story needed was to throw me a bone like, Cora's always felt like a real outsider, but lucky for her, now she's got this cool monster boyfriend. We learn Cora's kind of a woman child in the first chapter. She's a college dropout, she drives a beat-up car, she spent the money her mom loaned her for gas on concert tickets, and she goes cold whenever some pest asks her about her famous but deadbeat dad. Yeah, she doesn't have it all figured out, but it's nothing too out of the ordinary for being in your early 20s. She's not experiencing any particularly troubling hardship, her family seems totally fine, there's no disability, illness, and she's not born with a curse. There is nothing about her that makes me feel like, wow, this chick's had it rough. She's got a whole slew of problems. Being whisked away with a monster boyfriend is just what the doctor ordered. Or if Cora is going to be the perfectly average 20-something screw-up, go the Twilight route. Keep her boring, but make the monster the coolest guy around. And other than the bits about the language, there is nothing too interesting going on with him. I brought up Jingai-san no Yome earlier because that series is the best example for a low-conflict, zero-angst monster romance story. It's about a cinnamon roll anime boy marrying a big giant floofball, and their happy newlywed life together. Anime boy doesn't experience any great hardships before or after marrying the Moomin, so much of the appeal is, what if I was suddenly in a highly romantic, yet strictly asexual, arranged marriage, and with that marriage I'm suddenly in the friend group of a bunch of different anime guys who also have kooky monster husbands. It's a very specific escapist fantasy, and I've yet to find anything else like it. But Jingai-san no Yome is a solid example of using monster not as an allegory for the other, but their non-human status makes them easier for audience projection and escapism. So not every monster romance needs to be as heavy as Shape of Water. Sometimes you're just there for the purely romantic escapist fantasy, and I'll be clear, I love both of those. I just have way more to say about Jingai-san no Yome, and if it's been a minute since you've watched Shape of Water, it's about a mute woman in the 60s romancing a fish monster who's being experimented on by the government. Today, I want to workshop something with you, the interspecies love spectrum. And I am serious about wanting to workshop this, so please leave a comment with how you'd improve it. Odds are you have a higher media literacy than me. The spectrum goes between using interspecies romance as a bubblegum escapist fantasy, so Jingai-san no Yome is on one end, versus the other end of the spectrum, we're using interspecies romance for addressing societal issues, and I'm putting Shape of Water at that end of the spectrum. I would put something like Twilight more in the middle, but closer to bubblegum escapism, and Ancient Magus Bride and Beasters sit closer to Shape of Water. And then for more bubblegum escapism, I'd say Merman in My Tub and My Beloved Sugar Wolf. I'm putting this chart together because I'm trying to figure out where to put Axiom's end. Given the whispers of political intrigue, I'm inclined to place it closer towards monster love as a means to address societal issues. But the characters are very empty, and the political intrigue was completely hollow. So maybe this is a story of bubblegum escapism, it's just wearing a tough guy veneer. I'm thinking if we made Cora's life about 10% rougher, she'd have more of a reason to see Amp as a fellow damaged soul, and the two can fall in love from there. The high-tension setting makes a Jingai-san no Yome style escapism a little trickier to pull off. The worst thing going for Cora before the mechanisms of the plot begin to unfold is her relationship to her dad, and I kinda don't care. Everyone's dad sucks, get over it. If the dad's crimes were a little bigger, for example, say the dad pulled a Luigi to get a hold of his leaked documents, and Cora could walk around with this looming fear like, oh no, my dad ended a life. Am I born with this demon inside me too? The attitude towards her dad is mostly being very bitter that he walked out on his family, and Cora resents the public for being so in love with her deadbeat dad. I'm not saying you can't be upset about having bad parents, and yeah, she is faced with constant reminders about her dad since he's such a high-profile figure. I guess what I'm getting at is I don't get how this is such a big issue for a character in her 20s. If she was still in high school, I would completely believe this is an issue and it's deeply affecting our protagonist, and she'd immediately get sympathy points. But Cora's a fully cooked adult. Your mom stepped up and took care of everyone. You got out of childhood alive. What's the issue here? If you see your dad's on TV, turn the channel. If someone asks you about your dad, you could tell them to fuck off. Look, this character isn't handling things how I would handle it, so I'm unimpressed. And if this is supposed to be the big thing that others the protagonist, I'm not buying it as a big enough reason for her to need a monster boyfriend. What reason does Cora have to bond with Ampersand other than he's just there? His existence is a side effect of everything else happening because it needs to happen. Because Lindsay Ellis goddamn said so. There's a scene where they hold hands and where Ampersand flies around with Cora on his back, and I'm just thinking, I don't care. I feel nothing. I know these scenes have the window dressing of romance, but when your characters are this fucking dry, it is hard for me to feel anything during these elaborate set pieces. So the romance begins to build when Ampersand learns how to comfort humans. Cora says that rubbing a person's back can be a gesture to calm someone who's upset. And every time Ampersand goes to touch Cora, he asks permission for her consent. It reads like a parody of an overly cautious soy boyfriend. This is the imaginary boogeyman that conservatives conjure up when they say delibs have gone too far with active consent. We found him. It's him, Ampersand, the love interest in Lindsay Ellis's book. but I know there's not a lot of monster boyfriends who are overly concerned with consent. So our boy Amp is being a real gentleman, so the net average stays only slightly worse than human men. But after the 500th time where Ampersand politely asks for permission, it crossed the threshold from this feeling well-intentioned but slightly dorky to me wincing with cringe, wondering if the corners of the page would start asking me, is it okay for you to turn the page and keep reading? Like, bro, can you stop futzing around and just go for it already? Okay, if you think this is good and more monster boyfriends should be super cautious of consent, that's cool. Whatever. I know the monster boyfriend union is hard at work to undo the cultural damage from the kidnappings and Beauty and the Beast, so I won't rail against that too hard, even if it didn't work for me. But the real kicker is the ending of the book undid all of the consent talk. At the end of the book, we learn that Ampersand did a soul bond with Cora without her knowledge or consent, which is kind of a big deal. He really should have asked for permission on that one. So, once again, we have a story of the politest dude in the world hiding behind chivalry to get away with something dastardly. If this keeps happening, soon the only men you'll be able to trust are the scumbags like me who are open about how awful they are, and I don't want that level of responsibility. I don't want anyone to trust me, but I do want you to like me, so you better make sure you like and subscribe. Anyway, Ampersand's reveal isn't done in a cool plot twist way, where he befriends Cora and acts really sweet, but in the last act it's revealed this was all part of his grand Kikaku. That would be cool. I would like that. So the two are soul bonded now, but I'm still counting them as 2 of the 5 for my closest people in this book, and I'm giving them both a case of Magic Mind, so maybe in the sequel they can bring a little more focus and energy. For the first time, Magic Mind is offering the 24-hour pack. It's got Magic Mind Focus and Magic Mind Sleep. You and your monster boyfriend can get 45% off with my referral link at magicmind.com/taperjan. That's TAPIRJAN. Thank you, Magic Mind, for sponsoring this video. You guys are the best.